Hello, good people of YouTube. Mountbatten here, and today we are discussing one of the more common complaints about modern World of Warships, meaning, of course, World of Warships in the past year or so, and that is the just absolutely, seemingly just cratering quality of matches here recently. What do I mean by that? Well, one of the more common comments that I've been noticing here on the channel is that, higher tier games, or really almost any tier of game now at this point, the matches that a player might experience in an evening seems to be heavily leaning toward absolutely just one-sided complete blowout matches, which isn't really a new complaint. I mean, this is something that's been coming up quite regularly, I would say, in at least the past 3-4 years with the game. One side just seems to absolutely walk over the other side, and every other match, it seems like. But I had a real humdinger of an experience on Friday night that I really think it's like the perfect example of what's going on, and a very good example of an extreme blowout match. So the background match you're watching right now, this isn't a replay video or anything. I'm just going to, tell you what happens in the game, then go on to talk about why I think it might be happening. But anyway, the background match you're watching right now, you might recognize the footage from yesterday's video on our top 5 battle cruisers. So it's the Alaska game. And, of course, in those top 5 videos, you have maybe 3 or 4 minutes of, a match being shown. So you don't really get the full idea of what's going on in the match, but you get to watch it all here. So this is a match that within the first 4.5 minutes of gameplay, not 4.5 minutes of contact with the enemy team, with quite literally before the clock hits, I believe, 15:30, my team has lost 4 ships. They might be saying, well, Sealord, destroyers, they're goofy little dudes, right? They get into the caps, they go bow in, they don't play it overly smart, they get sunk all the time. It's not that rare anymore that, you lose most of your team's destroyers in the first 5 minutes of gameplay. Oh, how I wish it was only... Well, actually, I don't really wish it was only destroyers that we lost, because destroyers are very important. But in the context of the severity of the ships being sunk, I wish it was just destroyers. But it's not. Within the first 4.5 minutes of the game, we lose not only 2 destroyers, but a large cruiser, I might hazard to say a battle cruiser. Go extend, probing the poking the commentators from yesterday's comment section, and also a battleship. And you might be saying, "Oh, Sealord, well, those goofy little dudes and their Pan American and German battleships, they love pressing W." Oh, how I wish it was a battleship that might have a reason to be, within the oh no zone for the first 5 minutes of gameplay, right? It wasn't. It was a Thunderer. One of the best mid to long range battleships in game. Man gets taken out by torpedoes in the first 4.5 minutes of gameplay. A Thunderer. One of the most maneuverable tier 10 battleships, with an improved heel, with, of course, very good concealment if you build into it. What was this guy doing? I don't know. Did he maybe catch a little bit of bad luck? Sure, but why are you that close within the first 4.5 minutes of the Thunderer? Again, keep in mind, we're talking 4.5 minutes from when the timer started, not from when you had contact with the enemy team. So keep in mind, typically the first 2 minutes of gameplay, if there's not a CV or a sub, which if memory recalls, this is not a CV nor a sub game, you don't see anybody. So within, realistically, 2.5 minutes, we lose 4 ships. And we go on within, I think, another minute or so to lose yet another destroyer. So within, again, the first 5-6 minutes of the game, we're down 5 ships. Which is absurd, really. Again, considering what ships were lost too, a Thunderer, I think it was a Yoshino or an Azuma that was lost too. Now, granted, Yoshino, Azuma, they kind of explode, so that's one I could definitely see both ways. But again, it's like, well, if you look where he died, he was kind of close in on the action for a Yoshino, right? Or an Azuma, again, whichever one it was. So it's just like, what are these people doing? I mean, and again, there are the matches where you do just get unlucky. And yeah, your destroyers eat random torpedoes at the beginning of the game. But again, when you have a mid to long range battleship and a mid to long range cruiser dying in the first 4.5 minutes, again, really 2.5 minutes of gameplay of actually, like spotting the enemy team and such, that's kind of crazy. Now, to be fair, I do some pretty pro gamer things at the beginning of this match too, and almost lose my ship. So I guess you could point to that and be like, well, Sealord, you made a little oopsie poopsie too. But yeah, I survived though, and played appropriately afterwards after getting wounded like that in the first half, the first couple of minutes of the game, And I'm not saying, I'm some excellent player that managed to, get my ship out of a bad situation. I put my ship in that bad situation in the first place with the hopes of nuking the Wooster to help out my destroyers, right? It's just that I managed to get out of it, unlike the other guys that, perished in the first 4.5 minutes. But yes, this seems to be getting worse and worse and worse and worse in today's World of Warships. I mean, this whole stream, this is from Friday night's live stream. This is from a set of games I had on Friday night's live stream. Throughout that stream, we had, this is again, it is like the worst of the worst in terms of, losing so many ships so early in game. But there were many a match where, like, players were making very odd decisions. Destroyers just abandoning the cap that they're at, sailing to the other side of the map, leaving your side with absolutely no spotting. We had a Groningen literally sitting in smoke, not farming. He sat in his smoke instead of spotting anything. Like, I get Groningen's, it's a thing that sits in smoke and farms things down, but like, there's nothing to spot, buddy. There's nothing to see, buddy. There's nothing to shoot, buddy. Perhaps you might want to go spot, and then, get them, baiting them into firing on your side, because, your side's going to shoot at them, and they get spotted, then they can return fire. Then, now that they've shot and that your team spotted them, then you can spot up and start smoking things down. But we had, again, similar things happening throughout the night. So, of course, the question that everyone has on their minds is, why the hell is this happening? And, like, how did we get to this point where it's this bad now? To where we have these one-sided matches happening, it seems to be almost every game. And now the rare match is a match that simply isn't a blowout. Not even necessarily a good game, just a game that isn't an absolutely one-sided slaughter fest. They're still one-sided matches, but they're not, as bad as this. You're fighting like a fighting retreat most of the game instead of getting absolutely clobbered over. Well, there's a couple of things going on that is probably leading to where this. One is, of course, the more gimmicky nature of the ships that Wargaming has been releasing here recently. Of course, that you got like the Pan American battleships with their absolutely, goofy secondaries that can get out on the Libertad, 15 kilometers. That, of course, leads to more passive gameplay and destroyers not wanting to go anywhere near anything Pan American the second it gets spotted. You have super ships that are inherently, of course, kind of broken in their nature. You're paying the extra credits per round to literally play a broken ship, right? Or an overpowered ship, right? Granted, Wargaming's done, I won't say an excellent job of balancing the super ships. They've done a better job than, like, again, Lesta has been doing if you go play their client, where they gave these super ships, another consumable slot, another special upgrade slot to make them even more cracked, right? And, of course, too, there is this, what appears, from my experience, to be a pretty big uptick in inexperienced players getting to tier 10 really fast. And we've talked about this in the past too, about how, Wargaming does their thing where if you've been inactive for some time, they'll give you a bunch of higher tier tech line ships to come back to the game, or as we've seen again in previous events where, they're not only giving away premium ships in these events, they're giving away, tier 8 tech line ships a lot that gets you straight into that higher tier matchmaking bracket. And, if you give someone a tier 8 tech line ship and they're stubborn enough to just keep playing it, they can get to tier 10 pretty quickly. World of Warships is not really that grindy of a game, even after Wargaming has done their best to try and, scale back some of the economic bonuses and how much free resources you get. It still is not that grindy of a game. It's far less grindy than like War Thunder. The most common comparison I usually make when comparing this vehicular based combat game against another vehicular based combat game, right? It's still not that grindy. So you have players that get these tier 8 tech line ships in these events, and then they just stumble their way to tier 10. Or of course too, what was it? The Voyage to the North Pole event where you got to just get a free tier 10 tech line ship. I got the Baleo, I think Baleo is the way it's meant to be said, from that event. I have no idea how to play a Baleo. Well, I have some idea because I played the Gato, whatever. But I could have also picked a Shimakaze from that event. And a Shimakaze, I have no idea how to play that thing. I just started getting into destroyers the past year, mostly gunboat destroyers. But the fact that Wargaming was just like, yeah, here's Shimakaze, the poster child for torpedo boats that you have no idea how to play. Yeah, just get it because you did the little web campaign thing or the little Voyage to the North Pole event, and here's your tech line tier 10 ship. Yeah, so that's not helping anything, of course. And of course there are problems with the matchmaker. Not necessarily that, it's dumping. It is a problem when it happens, right? When you get those random games where half the team on your side, they're that deep red color. If you use matchmaking monitor, their stats are not that great. The other half have kind of mediocre stats. And then you look at the other side, and it's a sea of purple and green, right? So you got a bunch of super unicoms and a bunch of above average players on the other team, and it's just like, oh well, we're gonna lose, right? There's not much you can do about that. That is just random battles. It's random battles. The matchmaker does not take player win rate into account, just looks at the ships itself that it dumps into the match. There are certainly problems with looking at the ships itself that they dumped into the match because it doesn't take hybrids into account. It doesn't take equipment like radar and such into account. So you do get these games that are pretty naturally unbalanced where one side will have like a CV and 2 hybrid ships, where the other side will just have a CV and no hybrid ships. So it's like the enemy side effectively has 3 CVs, and the friendly side only has 1 CV. Though that's a real issue with the matchmaker, because to my knowledge, it does not take that into account, and it most certainly needs to, in my humble opinion, to produce a more well-balanced game. So that is my theory as to what's going on. It's all these issues that have been plaguing the game for years, and they're kind of coming to a point now with the way that it seems that matchmakers going on, or at least the way that these games are coming together, and higher tier matchmaking. Even at tier 6, tier 7 used to be a pretty good place for finding well balanced games in terms of one side not absolutely rolling over the other side. But it's happening there too now. It's just like I wish there was a switch where gaming could, of course, switch, click, and then boom, everyone gets perfect matchmaking. It's a beautiful day, the world is at peace. But there's really not at this point. It's several issues that just keep compounding themselves together, it seems, to, give us these terrible matches at higher tier. So I just thought I would share my experience with you guys in today's video. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Is this something that you think Wargaming could do to fix it? I know remove CVs, remove subs is going to be, one of the biggest chants down below, along with remove hybrid ships, which that one I don't necessarily disagree with, but yeah. But anyway, let me know what you guys think of it in the comments down below, and share some of your worst experiences from the past couple of weeks in terms of matchmaking and blowout games and all of that jazz. So if you guys enjoy, have a wonderful Tuesday, wonderful rest of your week. Hope to catch you guys in the next one.